Hey, welcome back, everybody. Time once again for your Esports Connection. The one show, the only show that connects you with everything happening in the esports world. We'll say right here from the, we'll think of it as the center of the esports world, at least in Southern California, as we stream live from our studio here at the University of California, Irvine, with the people who have created and brought about the esports Little League here to Orange County. That's a first. There's a Little League for esports. Welcome, Vincent Yard from Valhalla Esports in, where are you at? Lake Forest.
In Lake Forest, right. Yeah. All good, Paul. Thank you.
All good. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to introduce our guest today. It's Bethany Pyles, right? And,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And you are with
I'm with the United States Esports Federation.
That's a big one right there.
That is, yeah, USCF.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you first and foremost, obviously, for coming on the show with us, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And I just wanted to jump right in and ask you, what do you do over there, basically?
Well, I've been in esports for a while, so there's been a lot of XP prior to this, but my title is Player Development Specialist. Oh. So my entire focus on it is getting players set up to compete, and that happens from recruiting the players themselves, actually trying them out to be on the team, and then actually managing them once they are recruited, so coaching them through qualifiers, etc., and then competing internationally. So I'm actually traveling with these players and teams that qualify for these international tournaments and making sure they're doing their best. And it's a lot of hand-holding, to be honest. It's a lot of making sure just players are healthy and good and ready to compete to their best.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's a lot right there. So I mean, even before that, have you been in this field for like a very long time, like your whole life, or?
No, I've dabbled in esports. Esports is something that, first of all, it's something that I love. It's a passion of mine. I'm a gamer. I never saw it as a career until maybe the last 6 years or so. So professionally, I've been working in it for the last 6 years. Prior to that, I went to college and I studied anthropology, had no idea what I wanted to do, and I was just very curious about the world. And I ended up working as a caseworker. So I was a caseworker for intimate partner violence or domestic violence. I was on a hotline working with cases. I was a refugee caseworker as well. And those jobs are extremely time sensitive, but they're also very draining, and it's a lot of focus on people and trauma. And in my free time, I was going home and gaming. Okay. That was how I relaxed. Yeah. And at some point I just thought, I wonder if there's actually a way to make a career out of this. I love it so much. This is where my community is. So I started sort of looking to see what kind of jobs were in that scene and what kind of matched what I already had done. And I loved working with people and youth. So it seemed to be sort of, can I combine this knowledge I have working with people with this love of gaming? Yeah. I sort of stumbled my way into a few early jobs and then have just solidified a reputation since then.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I could say we have similar stories in a way, just because I was waiting to hear that you were gaming still on the side.
Of course.
I mean, that's always going to be there as long as you're a gamer. So.
Yeah, of course.
And it's something that came into my mind as well, of course, where at one point I was like, I want to do something with this, because I mean, it's been a part of our lives. I'm sure it's a part of a lot of our audience's kids' lives and stuff like that. So I mean, they start wondering stuff like, how can I turn this into something? Right. And you said that was about 6 years ago that you basically got into this whole thing?
Yeah, it actually started here at UCI. That's where we're filming. But there's two professors here that created Connected Camps. And Connected Camps really started because they saw as professors a way to teach kids through games. So using Minecraft is a great first one for students to start on, because it's this open world. You can do a lot of coding and things like that with STEM in it. But you also play games. And then they branched out to esports, where they were having camps with Minecraft. They were having college kids come in and teach classes about history and language using Minecraft. And so they started to do the same thing with esports, because I know you know this, but esports is so full of SEL, so social emotional learning. Social emotional skills can be built from that. And so when you take notice of things like communication, teamwork, dynamics of who you're working with, self-efficacy as a kid, where you belong, it actually adds up to a lot. And you're just gamifying that experience. But if you have some sort of mentor or coach or someone leading that, those are really fulfilling sessions for students. And I think parents start to get it then too. But that's really where I got my start, learning how to build curriculum for kids, learning how to actually facilitate sessions with them, and making the most out of that one game.
Of course. Yeah, because I mean, just expanding on it, using it's kind of like using video games as a tool
100%.
to kind of bring these
That's
type
right.
of teachings into a kid's life. And that's why, at Valhalla, we kind of, we
Yes.
want to have building blocks or a foundation for those kids, because the world of esports today, if not guided like how both of us are trying to do, is it could get pretty sticky, get pretty toxic out there.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like anything else, right? If you love basketball growing up, as I did, you want to play basketball to a degree, but it is just a game until you get a coach, and then the whole game opens up.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, this is actually really challenging. There's a lot of nuance to it until you get a coach. There's a funny story. I actually, so I work with Cloud9, which is another esports organization, and we did a session with Serena Williams, the tennis player. I'm sorry.
Wow.
And I asked her in front of a group of kids why she still has coaching, right? She's an Olympic, tennis player. She doesn't need a coach, quote unquote, right, from the outside. Why does the best in the world still need a coach? And she had a similar answer, that it was all about growth mindset. So something that you love can eternally be more. And having somebody who can see from the outside what you need to compete on and what you need to get better on and fine tune is still valuable to her. So think of that as a kid playing a game. Like, how much more valuable could someone like you, right, a coach stepping in and just giving them nuanced tips and tricks, it sort of expand their mind. And I think you and I both, we come from a coaching background in this space, and it's all about really creating problem solvers for themselves, right? So we're trying to equip these students and kids, college kids included, on how to actually see these games in a way where they're solving conflict within this game, and it's all about strategy, feedback, delivery, etc. There's so many little pieces to it. But yeah, that's my whole world right now, and I know you're sharing a lot of that.
Yeah. It's like I'm talking to a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and to bring it back kind of to, because I'm sure a lot of the parents' ears perked up when they heard STEM, and they, So, I mean, if you can, you already said a lot about it already, but because I'm sure a lot of parents are still kind of questioning, like, how can you really have STEM in video games? Because when they're just at home hearing the kids like on the headset, screaming at their friends saying, pick me up or something, like, what are you doing?
Right.
So when they come to be coached by either you or me, regardless of their age, what do they get out of that STEM feeling for them?
Well, I would say, first of all, like, from parents looking out, or really anybody who's not endemic to the space, the lingo and jargon that your kids are using may seem off. It may not seem like they're getting those skills, and that's why it's so critical to have some sort of mentor in that space with them, because you may not be hearing these things, but they are happening. So they may say things that look like they're tilted or they're frustrated, but that's actually just part of the process. One of my favorite coaching philosophies is that, tilt or frustration, kids getting upset during a game, things like that, we're not actually trying to eliminate that necessarily. Conflict is endemic to the game itself, right? There's conflict in the game we're all trying to resolve. So we're trying to make better problem solvers.
Exactly.
So them encountering a problem or getting frustrated is actually kind of a win for us, because we can then mediate and help them cope through that skill. So it's not all about them just like, having a great time all the time. It's actually letting them encounter challenges and then us helping peel back like what that looks like, because that's what actually transfers to life skills. That's what's actually going to transfer to a job or to school one day. How do they overcome those challenges? And so just like anything else, there's tools in the pocket of every coach that has sort of a philosophy around it. But I think you and I share in that value where we're always trying to look beyond the game, try to set those kids up for whatever they want to do in life. And STEM, of course, is included, but it doesn't mean they have to go into that field. But I've seen kids just transfer skills over and over from, a club or a boot camp or working with a coach to, just having better coping skills. They handle pressure better, right?
Yeah.
They don't get as upset with their parents, when they're challenged at home. So it's little things just like a sport would give them.
Yeah, exactly. The thrill of competition.
That too.
I guess.
Yeah.
That comes into a lot of it. But then as soon as that, loss factor comes into them, a lot of these kids don't know how to handle that.
Right.
And then that's what we're here to do, basically,
Right.
is bring that back to them and say, hey, let's overcome this. And then all of a sudden, like you said, they're problem solving for themselves.
Exactly. They don't even know it's happening sometimes, which is great, which is why gamification is so interesting, because kids don't feel like they're learning, but they are. That's why, if you get a kid in Minecraft, you can explore an entire planetary system, right, in Minecraft, but to them, they're not learning necessarily. They're there for a good time, but they're absorbing so much through that. So again, you could pick any game, and you could do the same thing. So coaching doesn't have to be game specific. You could have a good coach and they could coach any game.
Yeah.
Because they're transferring skills, not like necessarily that game knowledge that you could Google, or you could, just grind through and get better, or watch a YouTube video. That's not what that coach is there for. They're actually there designed to really polish those skills around the game.
Yeah. If we had a long description for Valhalla, that's literally what I would say. Just because, I mean, in just my short experience having this open in Lake Forest, I've been coaching basically all the games there, and and what I realized is that every gamer is like, they're all different, of course, but they all still share that same mindset sometimes, where they'll get tilted, they'll get frustrated.
Sure, yeah.
And there's certain things they need to work on in the game, of course, but there's other things they need to work on just being a part of a team in general.
Right.
And the whole mental aspect of that is huge also.
Yeah.
Because that correlates to, or that's going to lead me into my next question, that brings them to the pro level scene, or I guess collegiate to pro level scene, because they, of course, let's say they have all that building blocks now they're up here at this level, and now they're in contact with the likes of you guys. So what would be like the process for them, like to get into that whole world?
Well, a lot of it is their own reputation. And so when I pick players, I actually follow my own rubric when I do it, and I have a committee of folks around me. So I'm not the sole one doing it. We're looking at a community of folks. So if I pick a game, I'm actually looking for industry leaders within that game, and then I want them to help me boil down who's actually applying. So of course we get hundreds of applicants that want to be part of this team, and it boils down to 5 people, right, on a team. And so finding those people, it's not just about their skill. I've worked with the top 500, the best 1% in the world in some given games, and sometimes they're the worst on a team.
Wow.
And skill alone isn't good enough anymore. It used to be. That used to be also your reputation, but now it's more about charisma. It's also about how you represent yourself. I need players that can represent themselves well on a global stage, right? And which means they know how to behave. They know how to speak to media. They know how to, actually perform and lose sometimes, right? They handle themselves under pressure, and that is a lot harder to teach. That's where things like Valhalla and grassroots esports and training your kids young is so important, because now pro scene and global scene, they're looking for much more mature players. Being good is not enough anymore. We want a mix of both, and so there is competition out there now. If you put me side by side with a player that's top 500 and a player that's unknown, but they both compete pretty much the same, I'm going to pick the kid that's going to represent on stage better every time. And I'm going to develop them, because I can teach skills like that. I can teach the game stuff a lot faster than I can you actually being a decent person.
Yeah.
That takes a lot longer. And so you see that in sports as well. People go online, they start saying things.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And they don't know how to represent themselves or their org. And it's the same in esports now. So you see a lot of turnover. And the best thing you can do now is sort of build your reputation on some of those really positive factors.
I got to jump in here and ask, somebody tweeted in, what is the Esports Federation? Is it a professional league where people get paid? Is it a amateur league with a high profile to it? Walk us through what you do in the world that you compete in. It's a world I know nothing about.
Great question. So the US Esports Federation, it's a pro scene. So we compete internationally for large prize pools on an international stage. So we're actually playing up against the Philippines, Team Canada, Team England, whatever it is. And there's specific leagues that we have to play in. And so as the U.S. team, or as the U.S. Federation, we actually have the slot for the IESF, which is the International Esports Federation. Oh. And then there's another league called GEF, which is the Global Esports Federation. And now you can imagine, in a few years, this is the Olympics have now been released too. So esports is now part of the Olympics, and you can sort of see how this all sort of comes together in the next few years. But
esports is part of the Olympics. So
that's right.
You're telling me that when does
you missed that announcement?
I missed that announcement.
Yeah, the IOC announced earlier this year actually that esports is now an Olympic sport. So it will be its own branch. So it will not be Summer Olympics part of that or Winter Olympics part of that. Those are its own separate entities.
Right.
You know how they have the Paralympics, which is sort of outside of everything,
right,
and it has its own timeline. Esports will now have its own as well. And Saudi has a lot of money involved. They're going to be the first country to host this, and then it will continue on. But you can imagine, so like as the US Esports Federation, we want to bid into being that Olympic team, and being the qualifier for the US players. And so that's what we're doing now. So we recruit players, and based on their performance, they make money. They do not make a salary with us. However, most of the folks that we're poaching and recruiting are coming from pro orgs already. And that's not necessarily because we're looking for that, but most of those players are the most ready. A lot of players from our team actually came from FlyQuest, our women's team, especially FlyQuest Red. And we picked them because they're so much more mature already. They've traveled a lot. You know, they went to our competitions and then they flew to Sweden right after. And to be able to have women like that already kind of know how to handle themselves, they know how to deal with a visa, they know how to get on an airplane, they know how to show up. That's hard. It's really tough. That's, you know, you're on your own. You have to be very individual, and so we're looking for players that compete on the amateur and pro scene to be a part of us, but we have amateur players as well. When I recruit, I'm really looking for, I need at least 1 or 2 veterans on the team who likely have played on a pro team before. Everyone else, you know, we can develop, we can insert them in. You know, esports is so young. There's a lot of amateur players that never made it on a pro scene, and it's not any of their fault. So, you know, we are a pro org, but a lot of the players that we keep it open. We have open applications as well.
Wow. Well, I just can't believe that it's actually on an international stage,
Right?
like so much
Yes.
as that. I mean, I don't even know if a lot of people know that in general. I don't know if they think it's maybe just in their area or,
Right.
you know, I mean, I hear a lot about local tournaments and stuff like that, or,
Yes.
or, you know, a lot of parents generally think that's just all local, or maybe just only in their state, or maybe, it's all Texas, basically. But just to know that it's on an international stage, essentially. I mean, if you guys go on YouTube or Twitch.com, you guys see all these championship series for basically any game. And it's insane how many games there are nowadays. Like, you were actually just telling me something about, it's not even a game, it's Excel.
Yes. I mean,
you got to share this one. I
esports-
can't. We're talking about Excel. All you
We gotta
business
hear
types
this.
listening, we all
Listen,
use the
listen.
spreadsheet. You know, and she's saying that they've gamified that.
Yes, please look this up. There is XL tournaments. So, you know, E on the esports is very broad. You know, chess is included, chess.com running tournaments. You can be picked up by a pro org for playing chess. It's considered an esport. And in XL as well, there was just a massive tournament at the HyperX Arena. So these are in-person events that you can go to and watch these tournaments.
And what did they
there's
do?
prize
Just
pools.
build formulas or something?
Yeah. It's can I do it faster than you?
Yeah.
Can I be more efficient than you? And you can, I mean, that's as broad as you can make it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a map. It doesn't have to be characters. It's you competing against somebody else in an electronic version. That's as broad as it gets, you know. And obviously there's not hype around all of these things. Like, they're not all trending, but they exist. And if there's a niche that you love or a game that you love, I guarantee there's something out there, even if it's grassroots.
Yeah, I just still could not believe Excel. I still can't.
My
get
mouth
over
has
it.
dropped to
Everyone
the floor.
Google it after this.
Everybody's going to go and
I'm
watch.
gonna go look
It's
it up
real.
because it's really.
Because I'm pretty fast with Excel, so maybe
Listen,
maybe
Well,
I
sign
could,
him. Sign this guy.
But that wanted to I'm gonna actually pivot here just a little bit backwards. But when you talk about like coaching up these gamers and stuff like that, because obviously you're at the pro level, do you think there's much difference between the pro level teachings between like or for like us at Valhalla, you know, and like Forest, like because I'm teaching kids on Fortnite how to, you know, crank 90s or even just how to move and stuff like that.
Right.
And obviously you're not doing that at the pro level.
No,
but,
right.
But like, what does a lesson kind of look like, if there is like a lesson?
Yeah, so, you know, curriculum at the lower level is super important. First of all, like having good fundamentals in anything is the first step, and it actually cycles back. So once you have those fundamentals as a young person, or you're starting out in a game, you actually, once you peak and you feel like you can't do anymore, you cycle back to the fundamentals, which is not what anybody wants to do. You always want to do more, but it's really about harnessing those again and making sure you're not really letting your ego go in some of those tournaments. The biggest difference at the top is just your mindset. There's not a whole lot of mechanical difference at some point. There's just not. It's the same like in the NBA. Everybody can dunk, right? So what's the difference in a game that's close? It's mindset, it's energy, it's what you bring that day. And so a lot of our coaching sessions are maintaining. Can we maintain in high pressure situations where things aren't always going our way, our plan? Can we strategize together like under pressure? So a lot of our teams come together and we scrim a lot. So it's not always a coaching session where we're sitting down and I have a plan. It's we have a strategy because we know our opponent and we need to sit down and we actually play out that game.
I like that.
Right.
I like that a lot, actually, because we generally try to do that sometimes, actually. Like, so we try to ask other Valhalla arenas or anybody that's in our Discord server, basically.
Yeah.
You know, can we do a scrimmage versus you guys?
Yes.
And, I mean,
It's great.
Relating it kind of to like baseball. Like, you know, we do scrimmages. When I was in high school, I did scrimmages versus other high schools because we had a plan and we try to, you know, direct it towards that and make sure it works and everything like that.
I got to ask one more question.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep jumping in because this is just fascinating to me. This is a world I know nothing about. I'm the old guy in the room trying to understand what you're talking about here. Are these all one-on-one playing things, or are these all multiplayer games? So with a team, I think of people playing together to execute a plan. But if it's a bunch of individual, like a tennis team where I'm playing just one-on-one, and then somehow it's a cumulative score of how we all do. Walk me through that.
Right. Well, every game is different. So we do have individual players. I think games like FIFA or eFootball are on the global stage. So we recruit one player and they'll compete against one other player from another nation. And it's very simple, right? So it's a 1v1 situation, but they play on a team. If you know, they're in control of the whole team, but they are one player. And then, you know, the other most popular are obviously multiplayer games, and it's typically a 5v5 in most situations now. And so there's a team of 5 individuals up against another team of 5 individuals going head to head with their respective roles and abilities involved. And there's a lot more synergizing on those teams.
And do you watch film on the other team? Do you watch
100%?
And you try and figure out what they have a tendency to do, and then how you're going to react or block
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, just like traditional sports, and I love traditional sports, but you know, you basically sit in the room and you VOD review. We call it VOD, which is essentially you watch replays of your you know, last performance, but you also watch VODs of the other team. And so you want to know, sort of, just like again in sports, everyone sort of has a play style, right? Some teams are really aggressive with offense, some are really defensive. And so you want to know who you're going up against and sort of what their patterns typically are, what sort of heroes they typically play, so that you know how to counter. And just like traditional sports, you know, you're just matching up your opponent and trying to make good decisions and prepare for that opponent.
Do you ever have trick plays?
100%. Yeah, those are the most fun.
Yeah, trick plays always got to be in any type of sports.
Yep.
Like, it's amazing when it works too. Like, it's something, even when I've watched trick plays online, I tried to do some with my kids like a couple weeks back in our season, and unfortunately they didn't work, but that's okay. But seeing them online, it's just like you're watching a football trick play or something, or like the hidden ball trick in baseball.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I sit on my computer watching my players, and it's like I love the Steelers and I love football, and it's really like watching them win. I'm up, I'm animated, I'm like, yes, that worked, let's go, we planned for that, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
It's the same feeling when it doesn't work. Like, okay, we go back to the drawing board, we know what happened. But yeah, there's plays that you anticipate and you can call out. And in fact, in game, we typically have a leader in the game that is, we call them a shot caller in this lingo, but they're essentially a captain of sorts, and they're actually calling the play like a quarterback in the game. And so everyone has their headsets on, and what you don't want to happen is everyone essentially talking over. So you have someone designated to talk, like that quarterback running the play. And so they're saying, all right, this time around, this round, we're doing this. And the team follows them. So there is a lot of organization on the, at least at the pro level, where there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen and a lot of boxes need to be checked exactly.
And the other one that I have trouble wrapping my head around is watching. So I watch football and I see the ball fly and I see somebody run down the field. But when we went to the Level Up tournament last year in Vegas, because I'd never seen a tournament, and there's 1,000 people or some hundreds of people in this arena, big screen TVs up, and these people are on stage competing and they're projecting it onto the big screen here. I don't even know what's happening. It's just a flurry of activity. Everybody's screaming, yes! And I'm like, what happened? I couldn't even see. There's just a whirl of dust, you know?
Yes. You know, I'm sure you have thoughts on this too, and especially speaking to parents. I'll use my mom as an example.
Please,
she
okay.
hates sports, right? So she doesn't want to watch football because she doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Fair, right? It's the same with gaming. If you don't know how to you don't know how cool it is or how hard that trick was,
Yeah.
you have no appreciation for it.
Exactly.
Right? So you kind of have to remove yourself a little bit and sometimes just score keep if you can. But the reason there's fandom is because a lot of people who are watching are actually playing these games at home. And so they're watching these tournaments because they're the highest skill cap of it. And they're watching their favorite player play their favorite role, and they're doing things they can't do. Which seems odd, right? Because it's just a mouse and keyboard, but there's so much going on in these players' minds and the coordination that it just makes you go, wow, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'll use my dad for an example.
Okay, yeah.
Because, I mean,
It's okay. We're calling out all the dads here.
So many times where I'd be in the middle of a game and he'd come in my room, or, he'd come check on me what I'm doing, and I'd be like, I'm focusing right now. You don't understand. And he's like, no, I do understand. Turn that thing off. And I'm just like, no. So we both get it, and I'm just glad that we are here today to talk about all this stuff that really goes on behind the scenes in just the mind of an average gamer or a pro gamer.
Yeah.
And is there a need for, I think you guys call them, there's a name for it, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but you're a broadcaster, play-by-play caller to explain to the audience what they're watching, a color commentator like in football. Here's what's going to happen, here's what's going to, shoutcasters, you guys call them shoutcasters.
That's right.
Are they just giving a play-by-play, or are they giving analysis and understanding to those who've never done this before? What do you think?
Is it okay if I take this one?
Yeah, please, go for it.
I mean, shoutcasters are just like, I mean, I don't want to say they're better than broadcasters for football and baseball, but I mean, sometimes I've watched these shoutcasters live, and they actually put so much emotion in what they're doing. So of course it's the play-by-play, but they are just also like, because they're passionate too about this, like just like any broadcaster for football. They are screaming at the top of their lungs if some crazy play happens, and they are just fueled with like a fire, and it's so awesome to see that. Yeah.
And just like sports, like an ESPN desk, a lot of these casters are now players turn casters. A lot of them are, they're too old to play, or they're not playing anymore, or they were a coach and they've turned, into an analyst on a desk, which is cool. Like, there's a whole industry behind this, and you imagine there's someone behind the camera and the mic and all of this too, that, just like a real broadcast. So, they're the energy to the actual game itself, and they've helped a lot form the scene and help people digest it. So
will we ever get to a point, I'm taking over here, I'm sorry, but I just so many interesting questions. Will we ever get to a point where I will go to Angel Stadium here, and the Angels aren't playing, but out on the field on the Jumbotrons, gamers are playing, and there's a crowd of 50,000 people watching? Because I hear...
You mean you haven't been?
I missed that. But doesn't that already happen in Korea?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I joke, but it's already happening. North America is actually behind in a lot of ways to this whole scene. In Asia, it's a massive industry, and the most exciting part about that region is a lot of the governments have already gotten involved. And so, for example, we're the US Esports Federation, but it's Team Korea in Korea, meaning they have the licensing already from the Olympics before this was even announced to have that branding. So they're leaps and bounds ahead, and they also run tournaments much, much bigger, much more fandom, much more loyalty than we have yet solidified. We're really babies when it comes to this industry.
So it's not just online that you're watching.
No,
you actually
not at all.
put yourself in a seat
Absolutely.
and sit in an arena.
You've got a flag, you've got your jersey on, there's merch outside. You're getting signatures from players afterwards. It's a whole event. It's things people do on a monthly basis in other regions, especially in Europe as well. And it depends on the game. US is still trying to figure out, I think, like, what do we love, and we tend to go towards what's trending here. But some games just never die in other regions, and they've had fandoms for years. CS:GO in Europe. And then League of Legends over in Asia is just, it'll never die. It's just, there's a lot of money involved, and there's a lot of fandom already.
And of course, big corporations are getting behind this and sponsoring.
Absolutely,
I see even here, you've got banks and insurance companies and stuff, because it's a way to reach
That's right.
young people where they're at.
Yeah. I'll talk about Korea. We boot camped there. So I actually take players to Korea to actually boot camp. And we do that because a little bit of it is the technical side, meaning if I jump on a computer right now, I have to play with you because you're in North America. That's just how the computer works. However, some of the best players aren't in North America. So if I actually want to get really good and I'm already the top 5%, the best thing you can do is go play with the best around the world, and it's in Korea. And it's for a reason, because they have actually solidified their entire industry around business where it's lucrative for the players. They can do this full time, and they just are so innovative. They taught me how they prepared their pro players for a massive tournament. They actually built an arena. They were supposed to, I think it was in Malaysia that they were going to fly to. They built an arena in Korea. They put all the lights, the sound. They had a fake audience. They had the guys walk in. They had the lights. They had, like, they wanted the players to feel like they were already there, and they had them practice in those rooms over and over and over and over, like months leading up to the actual event itself, where you want these players to walk into that room for the first time and just feel like they were already there. That they hear the crowd, they're not phased by it, they see all the lights. They've already been in this environment. They had them also, they had rooms with massage, they had personal cars for them. They treated them like real pro athletes,
little celebrities,
but they're the best in the world. They can't be beat, and they went and they won. So, like, their government's proud of them. Faker is a massive name over there. He actually, military service there is mandatory. And it was a funny thing. I don't know if you guys know BTS, the K-pop group.
Yeah,
they were denied, right? They all had to go to military service, even though they did so much in the industry and made so much money. Faker, he's an esports player. He did not have to do military service there.
Whoa,
because
I didn't know
he's
that.
so widely known.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a god. And so he goes to these events, he still wins, and he's living the lavish life. Like, he is bigger than BTS, if you could believe it.
And it all starts with the Little League of Esports right here in your own neighborhood.
That's right.
Exactly.
Literally.
Howland Esports here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we could go on forever. I hope you'll come back again. How do people reach you if they want to learn more about this US World what do I call it? I keep saying it wrong here.
United States Esports Federation.
United States Esports Federation. If they want to find out more about how you recruit or where you play or how to watch, where do they find it?
Well, we have a website. It's usef.gg. But I'm actually here in California, so if you ever want to reach out, I'm actually going to be at the Valhalla Arena.
Let's talk about that,
so
Vince.
In a couple days. You want to tell us about it, Vince?
Yeah, so I mean, this coming Saturday, unfortunately, it is an event just for our subscribers and members. So, I mean, if you guys want to sign up real quick and then come there,
sneak in.
Yeah, but we have also plenty of events, and if you guys want more information, you just go straight to valhallan.com. It's VALHALLAN.com. And you can just request for more information.
And a subscriber would be, to give me the difference between a subscriber and a player. How do you guys work?
So the subscriber and the player are essentially the same.
Same thing, okay.
Yeah, so
right.
they just choose different packages and stuff like that if they want to play one game only or if they want to join two teams, basically.
I see.
Stuff like that.
And the season runs how long? What's the typical season run?
So our typical season, actually, this one just ended. It was about 8 to 10 weeks. So we had, I believe it was 8 weeks of regular
Parents
season.
drop
2
them
weeks of
off
playoffs.
just like they do for any baseball practice or basketball practice. You guys watch them, coach them.
Yep, and I mean, if they want to watch from our sidelines, they can actually sit in there and watch us.
Jeez. It's amazing to me. It's incredible. So you got an event coming up for those people that are already part of the program here.
Yes, this Saturday.
If somebody wants to come sign up quickly, so they want to see this thing and meet the Esports Federation Director of Player Development, that's a rarity right there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be there.
They're in for a treat.
Okay, and where are you guys located at?
We are over in Lake Forest off of Muirlands Boulevard, 24331 Muirlands Boulevard, Suite D.
All right. Well, take us out. This has been a fascinating discussion here.
Well, I just wanted to thank you again, Bethany, for coming on. I think this was a great conversation.
Yeah,
I wish we had so much more time.
Yeah, likewise.
Come back and do a part 2, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today, folks, as we wrap up another look at a world that most of us know very little about. The emerging world of esports and what's happening at every level. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beal Applied Innovation Center. It's the Esports Connection. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.